Alright, hello guys, welcome back. Today I have a new Strand Hunter build for you that leverages all of the new Strand-based Act 3 artifact perks into a truly spectacular build that allows you to take on any level of endgame content with ease due to some awesome synergies and powerful artifact combos. Getting right down to it, today's build focuses heavily on the Whirling Maelstrom Strand Hunter aspect and aims to optimize its uptime and lethality as much as humanly possible. And I'm willing to bet it's been a while since you used this aspect, so here's a quick breakdown on how it works. While using Whirling Maelstrom, destroying a tangle or collecting one and throwing it will now leave behind a spinning Beyblade tangle that deals damage over time with a total lifetime of 12 seconds. And furthermore, enemies defeated by the Beyblade tangle will emit a cluster of unraveling projectiles on death. On its own, it does a pretty decent amount of damage, but the main benefit is just how much chaos it's able to cause with all of the unravel projectiles flying everywhere if you position it within a big group of ads. The other two pieces that make this build so strong are the Barodyad Strand exotic submachine gun and the Foe Tracer exotic helmet. So, one thing at a time, why Barodyad? Well, since this is a Strand build, it does make sense to run a Strand weapon alongside it, and it just so happens that Barodyad is one of the best, if not the best, Strand weapon there is, especially now that you can fully upgrade it with the release of Act 3 with all the new catalysts and intrinsics, but more on this in the weapons section. Second, when it comes to choosing an exotic armor piece specifically for a Strand Hunter build, your options are fairly limited and restricted to certain playstyles. Balance of Power is great for any threaded Spectre build, and Surturachne's Facade is also pretty nice for having constant woven mail uptime. But with what we're doing here today, neither of those provide a great deal of value, especially since getting woven mail is stupidly easy now with a particular artifact perk, and we aren't using threaded Spectre. So this is why we're going with Foe Tracer instead. Foe Tracer will make it so damaging any orange bar enemy or above with a Strand ability grants 4 times Strand Weapon Surge, which was actually buffed in Episode Heresy to be 15 seconds up from the previous 10 seconds. And by the way, 4 times Surge is a 25% boost to your weapon damage. The nice part about this is that tangle damage counts for this, so simply throwing a tangle at an orange bar will trigger the bonus damage, but also unravel projectiles count for this as well. And with how easy it's going to be to get unravel going with this build, either through your weapons or abilities like Whirling Maelstrom, as long as there are orange bars around, this weapon bonus will basically be permanent. On top of that, once we fully combine these exotics and abilities with the artifact plus other seasonal mechanics, you're going to be able to spawn tangles way more often than normal, have constant woven mail, constant and improved sever, as well as double or even triple your weapon damage on top of the Foe Tracer bonus. But before we get stuck in, I'd encourage you to join my community Discord server. A big goal of mine this year is to expand my community, and if you're looking for a place where you can check out my full catalog of builds and hang out with me and the rest of our awesome community we have here, then do consider joining, link in the description. Okay, so because we're on pure Strand, our super is locked to Silk Strike, but this is fine because Silk Strike is a fantastic super for just about anything, and especially if you combine it with the artifact perk Limit Break, you can hit some pretty insane total damage, but its main use is group ad clear. For the class ability, we're taking Gambler's Dodge. This will allow your melee ability to be fully refunded when dodging near enemies, and speaking of, the melee we are locked to is Threaded Spike, but again, it's a really solid ability, so no complaints here. The key thing to note is that Threaded Spike applies Sever on hit, which as a reminder is a 40% reduction to enemy outgoing damage at base, but also this is quite important for an artifact perk interaction that we will be covering shortly. For the grenade, we're taking the Shackle Grenade. This grenade is great for suspending a large group of ads, and it also feeds into some of our upcoming fragment choices. As far as the aspects are concerned, we've already talked about Whirling Maelstrom, so for our second, we're taking Widow's Silk, which is simply going to grant us an extra grenade charge. You could go for Ensnaring Slam or Threaded Spectre if you wanted some extra survivability, but neither provides too great a value to be a must pick over each other, or Widow's Silk for that matter. Plus, having 2 grenades is always nice. Getting into our fragment choices now, the first one we're taking is Thread of Ascent. This fragment will make it so activating your grenade ability reloads your equipped weapon and grants bonus reload speed and handling, the values of which I've also listed on screen for you. This fragment is quite nice for making your guns feel extra snappy, and the reload portion never hurts. I should note though that the reload from this fragment technically isn't a true reload and won't trigger panic response on Barodyad as a result. You still have to manually reload it to get the perk rolling, but even still, it's quite nice to be able to hold out your special or heavy weapon and have it reload almost instantly. For our next fragment, we're taking Thread of Mind. This is going to make it so defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy, and when paired with our double suspend grenades, we're going to be able to take advantage of this pretty often, allowing us to dodge more often and thus have more uptime on Threaded Spike. For our third fragment, we have Thread of Generation, which simply states that dealing damage generates grenade energy, which is just going to help recharge our suspend grenades faster. Finally, our last fragment is going to be Thread of Warding. This is going to make it so collecting an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail for 5 seconds, which is one of 2 ways this build is able to get Woven Mail going, which by the way is a 45% damage resistance. Okay then, that's it for our subclass makeup, and it's now that I want to talk about how the artifact perks truly turn this build from just about okay to absolutely incredible. So, starting things off in column 2, we have Unraveling Orbs. This perk will make it so collecting either an Orb of Power or a Tangle grants Unraveling rounds to your Strand weapons for 14 seconds. And it's here that we're going to have a little segue into our Strand weapon of choice, Barrow Dyad. Barrow Dyad, as I'm sure you've come to see over the past few weeks, has truly risen to be an exceptional exotic primary in more ways than one. So here's how I've built mine for maximum results. My roll features Fluted Barrel, Alloy Mag, Smooth Grip, and the One for All Catalyst, and I've also made sure to align myself with the Path of Ambition. Because on the Path of Resolve, your Blighted Seekers deal around 5,000 damage, but on the Path of Ambition, this damage gets over tripled to now 19,000 per Seeker. And given that you can hold 6 of these, that's a total of 117,000 damage you're able to dispense in a very short amount of time. Second is that it appears if you ADS to shoot the Seekers, they come out faster than if you were hip firing them, just something to be aware of. One for All is also quite nice since you'll be guaranteed to hit 3+ enemies most of the time, and a 35% damage buff in return is always a nice addition. So back to Unraveling Orbs, this perk also has a boost which you can earn from rank 3 of the Path of Ambition, which states that Strand weapons deal increased damage to Strand debuff targets, which turns out to be a 5% bonus. And given that we're going to be unraveling literally everything, this boost will be active 24/7. Next in column 2, we're taking the new Act 3 perk Vile Weave. This mod states that targets hit by your tangles are severed, reduce tangle cooldown by picking one up. The first part is pretty self-explanatory, simply throwing or detonating a tangle near an enemy will sever it, assuming it doesn't outright kill it, and collecting a tangle shaves 1 second off your tangle cooldown, which isn't a lot, but at least it's something. And because of this, I encourage you to exclusively collect your tangles and not detonate them if you can. And if it wasn't obvious, yes, this does work with Whirling Maelstrom. Moving into column 3 now, the first perk we're taking is Dielectric. This is going to make it so defeating arc debuff targets grants Bolt Charge, and the arc debuff in question comes in the form of Jolt via our secondary weapon. I've opted for an Indebted Kindness rocket sidearm with Volt Shot, but any special weapon with either jolting feedback or Volt Shot will do just fine. This mod is just going to act as an easy way for the build to gain access to Bolt Charge. Next up, we're taking Disruptor Spike. This perk is going to improve the effects of Exhaust and Sever, lowering a target's damage output even further. And it turns out this converts regular Sever from a 40% damage reduction to a now 52% damage reduction. And because our Whirling Maelstrom is going to sever everything it touches due to Vile Weave, this is going to be a really good bonus to have. Lastly, in column 3, we're taking Elemental Siphon, which states that rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super, which is just going to provide another avenue of spawning tangles, so you might as well have this. But again, it too has a boost which you can earn by reaching rank 7 on the Path of Ambition, which makes it so elemental pickups grant matching super energy when collected. So now, whenever you collect a tangle, you're also gaining roughly 3% of your super energy back. Moving into column 4 now, we're first taking Flashover so that when you gain maximum Bolt Charge, you also become amplified, which by the way now provides you with a free 15% damage resist and makes enemies less accurate when targeting you. But also, Flashover increases your lightning bolt damage by 2.5 times. The more important mod in column 4 is most definitely Horde Shuttle, which states that damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a Threadling, giving a nice way of the build to spawn some Threadlings here and there, but also the boost states that your Threadlings sever targets that they damage, which FYI comes from rank 11 in the Path of Ambition. Lastly, in column 5, you'll want Defibrillating Blast so that stunning a champion grants maximum stacks of Bolt Charge, but by far the most important mod that completely changes everything is 2 SHREDS. 2 SHREDS is essentially 2 or even 3 perks in one, since for starters, it states that dealing sustained damage to severed targets unravels them. And given that our Threadlings, Beyblades, and the Threaded Spike all apply Sever, this portion is very easy to activate. But second, it also states that defeating a severed target creates a hotspot of Strand energy, granting Woven Mail to nearby allies for 10 whole seconds, which is honestly pretty insane. The appearance of this hotspot is identical to that of the Strand Titan Into the Fray aspect. It's a little green ball of light that pulses 3 times, with each pulse refreshing your Woven Mail duration to 10 seconds. So with this perk, basically any and all kills you get will generate these hotspots, essentially making it so you never run out of Woven Mail at all. 2 SHREDS also has a boost that comes from rank 14 of the Path of Ambition, which states that unraveling projectiles deal increased damage that deal further increased damage to severed targets. And by default, this is a 10% increase and then 25% to any severed target. So definitely take this boost if you have it, but I know the grind to rank up is a pain, so don't stress if you haven't unlocked it just yet. The important part is hands down the non-boost effects. On the topic of seasonal boosters, I want to bring your attention to a largely overlooked mechanic stemming from the ambition baubles, or sigil stones as they are referred to in-game. If you reach rank 12 on the Path of Ambition, you gain access to the sumptuous repass Path Mastery, which states that consuming a sigil stone will clear all stacks of suffocating terror, increasing damage dealt. And to be honest, we don't really care about the first bit, but rather by how much your outgoing damage is actually increased. As you can see here, normally Barrow-Dyad hits for 1835 to the body, but when I collect a sigil stone, I now gain the Blistering dominance buff for 14 seconds, raising my damage to 3670, which is exactly double. The crazy part about this is that it applies to absolutely everything: abilities, supers, relics, you name it. And collecting a second orb while your first one is still ticking makes them stack and provide triple damage instead, which is totally bonkers. I want to give a notable shout out to Special Hero here, as he was the first to bring it to my attention through this tweet of his where he shows the double stacking with a Synaptic Spear versus Grandmaster Savathun projections, and it really blew me away, so just something to keep in mind for this build too, since you may not have noticed this yet. Back to the build, as far as your stats are concerned, I would prioritize getting 100 in both resilience and discipline, then pouring the rest into mobility to reduce your dodge cooldown. Okay then, now let's wrap things up like usual by talking about our mod selection. Starting with the helmet, we're taking 1 copy of Ashes to Assets and 1 copy of Hands-On for some bonus super energy on melee and grenade kills, as well as Strand Siphon so that Barrow-Dyad can make orbs on double kills. For the gloves, we have a single strand loader, then Focusing Strike and Momentum Transfer for some bonus ability energy. Chest piece is general resist mods like always. Then for the boots, we have Absolution, Invigoration and Recuperation for some bonus ability energy and health after collecting an orb. Lastly, for the class item, we're taking Reaper for improved orb generation, Bomber and Special Finisher. As far as the gameplay loop is concerned, your goal when entering an engagement is to throw your Threaded Spike to proc Sever on lots of enemies, then defeating any of those enemies will make a Tangle and leave behind a Woven Mail hotspot. Collecting the Tangle will reduce its cooldown, then throwing it will spawn in the Whirling Maelstrom, and from there on, the loop will be entirely self-sustaining since the Maelstrom will sever more enemies, which spawns more Tangles, which gives you unraveling rounds, which deal more damage, which buffs your weapon damage because of Foe Tracer, and so on and so on. It's truly an awesome setup that synergizes so incredibly well. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed the build and consider giving it a try. Here is the fashion I used, and as always, there will be a dim link in the description. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.